And when Asakura has never done something like this before, and he's also going in against Pantoja, who has quite possibly the best pace in the UFC. Pantoja's secret sauce is not his team, it's not his training. His secret sauce is his ability to out-scramble everybody he's ever fought, and he can out-scramble them for one reason. He's in better shape than them. And a lot of that is DNA. I would suspect if you went and did a blood count on him, he's got very high H&H. I wouldn't be surprised if you did an x-ray that he's got an extra large lung. Asakura is a very tough guy. He's a very dangerous guy. But you don't need to go and look and see if he knows the rubber guard or if he can hit a spinning Superman punch. You don't have to do any of those things. You just have to find out, in a normal environment, is he in better shape than Pantoja, who might be the best conditioned athlete the sport has? That's it. When you figure that out, put your bet forward, because that's the guy that's going to win.
Has he adapted his style to the UFC? Has he been training in a cage? In his fights, for example, his last one against Juan Archuleta was trying to take him down. Up against the ring, under the ropes, he was sprawling, and his legs, if these are the ropes, his legs were all the way past. They were right past the end of the ropes on the apron. The apron of the ring's about 2 foot long, maybe even longer, and his legs were all the way out past there. Obviously, in a cage, you can't do that. So if you're pushed up against it, your feet are perpendicular to your body, and that makes it easier for somebody like Alexandre Pantoja to get a hold of a leg, a single leg, a double, a high crotch, whatever the case may be, and take you down, okay? It is an entirely different world. Fighting in a ring, fighting in a cage. Of course, he's going to do his homework. He knows that Pantoja, his best bet is to take him down. Pantoja can compete on the feet. Of course he can. This man is very talented in every area of mixed martial arts, but it's the takedown ability that he has. And of course, the jiu-jitsu, once it hits the floor, that's going to be the real problem. But if he can't stop the takedown, then I'll tell you what, it's going to be another fighter coming over from Japan and not making the transition.
You're right. The dude has power, man. And Pantoja, you're right. He does have a bad habit of fucking swinging for the fences, dude. But he's a world champion. That's a brawler. You start to ask yourself, like, you know, there's technique and whatnot involved, but he's just a goer, man. You know, that fight with Steve Erceg fucking hurt him, bro, with those elbows on top of his head. I mean, Steve did a really good job. It's just Pantoja was just a veteran in him, and the drive, the fact that he was fighting bros, he was able to get away with that. But now that he's going to Viva Las Vegas, no more crowd, you're not in your territory, will he be able to pull it out against a guy who is more dangerous with firepower than himself? That's the question. But either way, bro, I just feel like Pantoja has found the UFC. He's made the weight. He's fought 5 rounds with some of the best flyweights in the world, and I have to give it up to him, dude. I can see Pantoja, you know, winning those later rounds, and particularly because, you know, the Japanese is probably cutting too much weight.
I agree with you, Ernie. I'm going to go with Alexandre Pantoja. I think he has shown that he can push hard for 5 rounds and still get the job done. So I'm going to go with Pantoja, even though, hey, what a debut would be to be your first fight in the UFC and you become the UFC champion. So what a debut would be. I'm anxious to see this guy. I've seen his fights from afar, and I know that he's an excellent striker. Very, very dynamic striker. Mr. Knee, as I like to call him. So I can't wait to see it.
We don't know how they're going to handle the new set of rules, the octagon being in a cage. It's a lot of different stuff. And for your first UFC fight to be against the champion, I think there's a lot of nerves. Not that he's 21-4 in his career, so I don't think he's going to be shook too much by it. But I still am leaning towards Pantoja, just having the experience in there and having the ability to kind of fight everywhere. He's good on the feet. He's great with his scrambles and his wrestling. We've seen him time and time again, and it's just such a submission threat. I think it's going to be a fun fight. I think there's definitely going to be moments in the fight where Kai's able to hurt him because he's just too good of a striker, too powerful. But as the fight goes on, if Pantoja can stay within reason and not get busted up too bad early, I think he'll find a way to win that fight.
However, Pantoja has a thing that he consistently does, and he dips his head down and he kind of throws some wild strikes, which throws himself off balance a little bit. Not sometime, it's almost every time. And that is what concerns me the most here. Asakura is a sniper. That knee is absolutely devastating. The way that he throws it, it's built specifically for guys who want to lower their level and shoot in on his legs or on his waist. Pantoja did show the ability to clinch, have an upper body clinch with someone like Steve Erceg, and he did that well. So hopefully they're onto it, that's the way they need to enter. They also need to, however, change the way that they go about their striking here in this fight. If they don't change that, I think Asakura wins this fight. Not only wins this fight, but maybe wins this fight by knockout. I think Asakura is an unusual kind of striker that gets you to play right into his game, right into his hands, and that is dangerous. And I think if Pantoja is coming into this fight too confident, overly confident, I think he can find himself in some trouble here. If Pantoja is able to get to that clinch safely and take this fight to the ground, Pantoja wins this fight, maybe even dominates this fight. But with the odds the way that they are at plus 230, I kind of like Asakura's chances here.
But fighting a guy like Pantoja who's going to force you into making decisions, like fast. Like Pantoja's going to come out fast and hard. And it may be with takedowns, it may be with like aggressive punching, but Pantoja, he puts the heat on fast and he makes you make decisions fast. And a more cerebral fighter, if this was Tauta Taita, who's a little bit slicker, I think he'd struggle even harder. But Kai Asakura, who's kind of a brawler in a way, he might be able to overcome these obstacles and still fight his fight.
5'8". Again, let's take a peek here. 31 years old. I'm excited for this fight. Anytime one of these Japanese champions comes over, he's the risen champion. When they come over and they're exciting dudes, he TKO'd Juan Archuleta. Juan Archuleta was the Bellator champion at 135, who's very, very good. He's a very good, strong wrestler, and he TKO'd him. Before that, he took out Yuki Motoyo. But one thing that Pantoja has is Kai Asakura's last loss was Kyoji Horiguchi, and Pantoja gets to spar with Kyoji Horiguchi. His last fight, he had that decision win over Steve Erceg. Fight before that, he had the decision win over Brandon Royval. Fight before that, split decision over Brandon Moreno, Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, Manel Cape. He's kind of taken out all the top flyweights here. So for him to take on a debut Kai Asakura, it takes a lot of balls. It's when you watch the countdown, when you watch these embedded, it's hard not to like Alexandre Pantoja. He's just a family man. You can tell he's a nice dude. 5'5", 125. I'm fired up. I haven't been fired up for a flyweight bout in a bit, but I'm excited to watch this Kai Asakura. He's a finisher. He tries to crack you. He's long, he's springy, he's explosive. See him in the UFC is going to be badass. It's going to be real badass.